Chaps, here we are, back again. The After Hours Dialogue, brought to you by me, Nipo Pungula, and my host Mo, sitting at the back. Now, I understand, I did say, Mo and I said that this podcast is apolitical, which we are, but there's certain things that happen in life that must be spoken about. And politics is a recurring thing that happens that we will speak about today. As you can see, to my right, there's a new briefcase. 2 weeks ago, that had a different flag. Today, it's the United Kingdom. Why? Because we're going to be speaking about the Save Britain marches that took place what was the date? September 13th of 2025, held by Mr. I can't really say his full name. I can't really say his full name because word is he's shadow banned on Meta. But we're going to call him Mr. T. Robinson. That shouldn't catch us. But yes, over 100,000 people in attendance, including Mr. Elon Musk himself, who is actually opposed to uncontrolled immigration in the United Kingdom. Is his aggression against uncontrolled immigration justified or not? We'll let you lot decide in the comment section. Let us know your opinions. Let us know what you think of this topic. But then we're also going to tie it back to South Africa. Listen, there's a lot of incredible people, educated people in the nation of South Africa that are immigrating to other countries. Now I ask you as the audience, are they helping South Africa or are they hurting it? Some might say hurting it. South Africa's got incredible potential to become a first world country, a first world nation, leads culturally as well in certain spheres. Why can't we lead economically as well? So that's going to be today's episode. Mo, take it over from here.
Yeah, bro. So these marches were absolutely massive. I think major media outlets like Sky News, GB News reported that 100,000 people were marching, but as Mr. Robinson said, it looked like millions. If you looked at the videos of the people on the streets, I mean, it was definitely not 100,000. It was definitely millions and millions of people marching the streets. But what's interesting is, did you hear what Elon Musk actually said?
What did he say?
He said, we need to fight back or we die. That's how severe he views the situation.
Yes. I mean, he could be speaking hyperbole, but you guys tell us, what do you think? Is he speaking in hyperbole or is he speaking literally? You know, the question is it about economics, this entire problem, housing, the prices of goods going up, or is it about culture, losing identity in the United Kingdom? That's what we're trying to find out right now.
Because even some of the protesters had signs and flags saying, send them home, get them out, very strongly worded statements.
You're right. Quite provocative. But at the same time, one has to ask, could you blame them? I mean, in their standpoint, in their point of view, the lens in which they're using, they're just fighting for their country. That's all they care about, their country, where they were born and raised. And in their eyes, there's loads of foreigners making their country a dangerous place. This is not what I believe. This is not what I'm saying. But this is what they believe. And this is what they're saying. They're saying that back home, the England that they know is degrading in real time, with people who aren't English occupying land, having the prices go up, having the entire nation unsafe. That's their argument.
The thing is, the timing is actually not bizarre, but it's quite interesting because EU asylum applications actually fell by 13% in 2024. So is the anger really about numbers or is it something deeper?
I mean, that's what we're trying to find out as well, because I think most Brits would argue numbers because it's logical. You know what I mean, Mo? They can't say no, they're stealing away from our culture. They're making England less English than it's ever been, because that seems xenophobic, that seems racist, and some people could argue that it is. So a lot of them say no. A reason as to why we do not like uncontrolled immigration is because of the nation becoming more unsafe. Prices going up. I think with them they have a problem with not just uncontrolled immigration but illegal immigration. They believe that their society is being degraded in real time right in front of their eyes, and there's nothing that they can do about it. I mean, word is as well that people who are wealthy and who are making it big in the United Kingdom are fleeing because the United Kingdom is not the United Kingdom that they once knew.
The question is, are they talking about, for example, the Australians that moved to the United Kingdom? Are they talking about the South Africans? Are they talking about the Sikhs? I don't think so, you know? I think they're talking about the third worlders that are coming and just simply cannot assimilate culturally.
Yeah, and that is an issue. You know, the assimilation part. They believe that people who are drastically different are entering their nation, entering their environment, and are degrading it. It's almost like somebody bastardizing the English language. You know, for those who don't know what bastardizing means, it means to add aspects or add things, you could say, to a language, but in the process degrade its quality. And I believe that the English are feeling that type of way when it comes to illegal immigrants and uncontrolled immigration in their country. I'm gonna ask it again. Are they justified? What do you guys think? If you were living in a country that's doing seemingly well, most certainly better than most countries, and you have people from countries that you could argue are doing worse coming into your country and degrading the quality of life, I ask you, would you not be just as vexed, if not more? I'd argue that you probably would.
But do you think people are also simplifying the issue a bit too much? Because if you see some clips going on online, some people after the marches were pictured being at, Chinese shops, looking for their curry dishes afterwards.
Yeah.
And, is it that simple? Is it a case of these people are just not taking accountability for what's happening to them? Are they not in full control of their own financial situation? Do you think it's that?
I mean, you could argue it to be that because the same people who don't like the immigrants, as you said, they'll go to Chinese food stores. They'll go get their curry from Indian stores. They're the same ones contributing to those said individuals who are there illegally, who might be there illegally, let me say, contributing to their success, increasing the odds of them staying there. So they do say this, but at the same time, it's not a thing where it's like, okay, we're only gonna, do business with English people in England. That's not the way they're moving. Should they be moving like that? Maybe, maybe not. But you can't be the person saying, you know what, I don't like this immigration, but you're the same one who's going to a Chinese, chicken shop and ordering chicken chow fan, you know what I mean? Especially if the Chinese person who's there is there illegally. You must pick a side. Do you get what I mean, Mo?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the England fans literally sing a song that's called Vindaloo,
Yeah.
But I think the marches weren't about jobs or hospitals or economic strain, but I think they were about belonging. I mean, not just the UK, but France and Germany. People have noted that they fear that migrants just don't assimilate, language barriers, cultural clashes, visible separateness, those trigger resistance in sheer numbers.
And they are in sheer numbers, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, with human beings, they, how do I say this? They care more and like people who look like them, who sound like them. When one sees a foreigner, hears a foreigner, somebody acting in a different way that they're accustomed to, they tend to have an issue with it. You know what I mean? And a similar thing happens in South Africa. I mean, you have, actually, I have to say this properly because I don't want to butcher the name. You have groups like Operation Dudula, right, who oppose, the immigration of illegal immigrants, who oppose, foreigners taking jobs in South Africa. So we go through a similar problem here as well, Mo. Do you think that this problem ends with England, or are you also in agreement with me where we have a similar issue going on?
Definitely. I mean, in South Africa, the xenophobic attacks are much more violent, but aren't as documented as before. But then you could argue that in a third world country like South Africa, where Most people are living under the poverty line. It is up to them to protect their own financial interest.
Yeah, and let me ask, what do you think makes somebody xenophobic? Like, is it because is somebody being xenophobic not liking illegal immigrants, or is somebody being xenophobic not liking immigrants in general? That's a question to ask, because there are people who just don't like others because they're foreign, which I'd argue against. Then there's other people who say, no, I have no issue with foreigners living in my country. I have an issue with illegal foreigners. So where do you draw the line, really? Must we accept everybody, or must we accept a select few that we selected, that we argue are here legally and justly? What do you think, Mo?
The thing is, the twist is South Africans themselves are usually welcomed abroad. I mean, we've seen mass immigration to places like Australia, New Zealand. I mean, everyone who's listening to this podcast right now could probably think of one or two mates who've moved to Australia, New Zealand, the UK, the US. We are viewed as the good immigrants.
Yeah.
I mean, we speak English fluently. We assimilate to Western cultural values because I think here in South Africa we embody those. So we tick a lot of the boxes for those host countries.
That is true. So, as you said, South Africa is seen as good, like we're seen as good immigrants, We go to a country, people aren't necessarily xenophobic to us, especially like in the entire African continent. Out of 52 countries, if I'm not mistaken, you're South African, you go to England, they won't look at you the same way they'll see a Nigerian. And you're saying as well, it's about the way we speak, you think. Like, why is it that they look at us differently to, let's say, a Ghanaian, a Nigerian, an Ethiopian? Like, what is it? Like, what do you think that is? Because I know you said the way we speak and assimilating, that plays a role, but do you think there's anything else?
I think it's just because we assimilate so much into their culture because South Africa embodies most of their culture. I mean, simple things like sports. We love rugby. We love football just like them. I mean, South Africa loves a good drink just like the English.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to those things, there's not much pushback. Yes, there are cultural shocks when we get there, but I don't think it's anything that we haven't seen before. And I think it's not anything that we haven't seen in a series or anything that we're not prepared for. Whereas the Somali immigrant, who their country is, for example, like a Muslim nation, it's a complete and utter culture shock.
Yeah. No, I agree. But in this podcast, somebody has to play devil's advocate. So I'm going to ask you, yes, we're seen as good immigrants, right? And the people who oftentimes immigrate tend to be the educated people, the people who are able to make some good capital. Now, does that help South Africa when they leave to other countries, or does it hurt us? Because some could say, no, these same people who are educated, these same people who make loads of money should stay in the country, help the country economically, and compete with bigger nations. They shouldn't leave. So what is the best thing to do? Because when they leave, they're helping their families out. They're getting paid more, better living. That's the way they're thinking. Or must they stay here and help the nation and be Superman?
But that's the thing. I mean, abroad, South Africans are just statistics, filling labor shortages. I mean, a nurse in London could be saving lives in Soweto. An engineer in Perth could be fixing roads in Durban. But instead, their skills are strengthening someone's already strong economy.
That is true, and one must ask themselves, are you going to save yourself and those you love, or are you going to save your country? But what is a country at the end of the day? Because I've mentioned this in, a previous episode. We're all, like, factually speaking, we're all on the same rock. Regarding the borders that have been put up, they've been put up by human beings. So, yes, you might be South African, but what happens when you marry somebody who's, I don't know, from the United States of America? Your children, what are they? Half and half? And let's say they grow up in the US, then they have kids. Now your blood is also partly American. So it is a tough one. Must one stay in their country and try to help it grow, make it grow, or must they take care of themselves, take care of the people closest to them? And it's a question that I myself don't have a straight answer to as well, because it's a moral dilemma. It's something that isn't as easy to answer as most questions. But yes, like what you said about, regarding Soweto and the nurses and whatnot, like it's 100% true. But it has one thinking, like, is it the right thing to do? Is it the moral thing to do? Leaving, staying? Oh, like, it has me thinking as well.
The thing is, like, South Africa is currently suffering a brain drain while the already strong West enjoys our brain gain. I mean, for example, look at accountants in this country. We have one of the hardest routes to become a chartered accountant in this country. We are vastly more overqualified than majority of accountants in the West, right? So do you not think that these companies in their minds are thinking these people who are all overqualified from a third world country like South Africa will just come here and accept not so much mediocre pay, but far less pay than what they'd have to do for a British citizen?
I mean, that is true. But also, I know a lot of people in the comment section are probably also going to make comments about, oh, the term third world country, first world country is outdated and inaccurate. Yes, to a certain degree, it most certainly is. But regarding what you said with, South Africans who are accountants immigrating, being overly qualified than, most people in the West in their same field, moving to the UK and getting paid less money than somebody from the UK would get paid. Like, yes, that does happen, but at the same time, they're still getting paid more than they would get paid in South Africa. No?
Definitely, but I mean, cost of living, etc., etc.
Yeah.
It's not like they're fully enjoying the fruits of their labor. Is it not insulting that a British citizen who studied classic literature at, let's say, a Russell Group uni, top 14 universities in the UK, can study classic literature and literally get an apprenticeship job, whereas you've been through 4 years of studying at university, and then 2 years of articles just to be in the same position, if not earning less than that individual? Is that not insulting?
It is quite insulting, and that would be, an argument to have them stay here and build South Africa. I mean, it is insulting, only because you're from a different nation, you're getting paid less than somebody from their native nation, but at the same time, you're still trying to work over there. But yeah, it's more of those. It's an example of getting more for less. You could say, Mo. On their side, it makes sense to do what they're doing, but for you as an individual in a country like South Africa, it makes significantly less sense. But even in England, if we were to go back to them, I mean, they're leaving, and I actually have a list as to why they're leaving England. And let's be honest, okay, there's reasons people go. People aren't just going because of bans. People aren't just going because now they want something new. They want something refreshing. Listen, they go because of crime, corruption. I mean, the crime in London, I won't lie. London in particular, apparently it's mad high. You've been, most certainly more times than me. And it's knife crime on that side. I'm going to ask you, Mo, is it as bad as people say? I know you're not English, but what do you think being in England as much as you've been?
I think it's not as bad as South Africa, of course,
Yeah.
but for the first time, especially going overseas, South Africans, we like to think when we go to Europe and stuff, we can kind of let our guard down. But I think in more recent years, I think you do kind of have to be cognizant. For example, like in South Africa, if you are going into Hillbrow, you're going to close your windows, etc., etc.
Yo, keep going.
Bro, are you telling me you're gonna drive around Hillbrow with your windows down, blasting? You get what I'm trying to say. But in the same breath, if you're walking around Kensington and Chelsea, your phone's pretty safe.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? But if you're even in central London, looking at the Big Ben, your phone can literally get snatched at any time. You know.
And what's funny is that South Africans also have a similar problem. With the way I think of England the way one would think of, when you're in Joburg and you're traveling to PTA. Joburg and PTA, well, for those who don't know, PTA is Pretoria, right? They're two separate places that aren't too far from one another, but they feel like completely different worlds, completely different countries. And I think to a lesser degree or to a larger degree, England and South Africa is the same way. You know what I mean? I feel like England is very similar to South Africa. Maybe it's because of the colonization, you could argue, but I think it's similar because they also struggle with issues such as crime. You know, the crime is also high in South Africa as well. You could argue it's high. It's unsafe there. It's also unsafe here. You know, we recently had the issue with load shedding. They don't have load shedding, but the price of living is exuberant. You know what I mean? So it's very, you could draw loads of parallels to the United Kingdom and South Africa because, as I said earlier, the people who are educated, who are making loads of money, they're leaving. You know, same can be said with England. People who are in England, people who are making it, people who are innovative are leaving the United Kingdom because they're saying it's not what it once was. But I'm going to ask you personally, if you were English, would you stay or would you leave? I mean, uncontrolled immigration, crime rates through the roof. It's not as safe as it once was. What are you saying?
I think if I was English and I had the means to keep up with the standard of living, I think I would most definitely stay because I think a lot of the people who did move and have come back just appreciate the culture because it's very hard to acclimatize. I mean, you know about the whole meme about the Chavs who moved to Dubai and
Yeah.
whatever. But
The Chavs.
yeah, the Chavs. But you know, they eventually come back. You know, there was this other that Geordie Shore guy. Oh, can't remember his name, but like he made a whole like 5-minute TikTok as to why he came back because he just says at the end of the day it might be bad, but England is just home. However, if I was someone who, you know, was struggling to keep up with the cost of living, I think I'd definitely look elsewhere. I mean, Dubai is literally tax free, bro.
Yeah,
you know?
it is.
And I mean, in places like England, inheritance tax is nearly 40%, I believe. Imagine being taxed 40% on something that your family
Has been
took
saving up for.
years to earn.
Well, that's 100% true. But that's an economic take. You know what I mean? No, but let's speak about culturally. Mo, there's people in the United Kingdom who say England is not the England I grew up in. You know, they're leaving because it doesn't feel like home. You're saying people came back because your England is bad, but the other places aren't home. There's people leaving because they are in England and they're like, you know what? It doesn't feel like home. What do you have to say to those people?
I think to some extent they are spitting facts. You know, I think with mass immigration, especially uncontrolled immigration, you're bound to get loads and loads of people who simply just cannot assimilate to your culture. And I think with that being said, the people in government have to pick a side. You know, are you going to pick the Russian billionaire who's asking for certain things over the average council estate mum who wants the old England back? You know, it's a coin flip. You have to decide what's going to benefit you more in the long run. You know, so for example, like Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, he's made it known that he's going to accommodate far more Islamic immigrants, and with that being said, obviously much more things are gonna flip in the sense that, you know, in those areas where they live, pubs are gonna close down, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, but where do you think this ends? Because, you know, as I said, there's people also leaving South Africa, but it's quite hilarious because when it's time for the Boks to play and they win, everybody's South African. We've made this example before, if I'm not mistaken. But then there's the same ones who are like, oh no, but South Africa's not that good. You know, a lot of foreigners that I've met in South Africa say that South Africa isn't half as bad as South Africans believe it to be. If anything, they come here and they're absolutely wowed by the entire country. Culturally as well. Not even just financially, because let's be honest, when we're speaking about South Africa, like, I don't think South Africa is in the same bracket as like Nigeria, as Ghana, and that's not an insult, that's just a matter of fact. I've never heard anyone say, oh, listen, I'm trying to move to Ghana and live there. I'm trying to go to, you know, I'm trying to go to Ethiopia. I'm trying to go to Congo and I'm trying to live there, stay there. I've never heard that personally, but it's always them saying they're trying to come to South Africa. So I say that to say that there's a lot of good in South Africa. There's a lot of potential in South Africa. Must people leave and build other countries up, or must they stay and build their own home up? It's a question that needs answering, and I'm sure you all will answer in the comment section. But it's one question that's been pondering my mind quite a bit, actually.
Because imagine if more South Africans had stayed, that means more professors in universities, more specialists in hospitals, more innovators creating jobs, higher tax revenues, strengthening the states. I mean, the list can go on.
It goes on, but that's what this entire conversation is about. It's a moral dilemma. Are you going to stay and help those who are closest to you, help the nation you grew up in, or are you going to leave and go to another nation and help build that nation up? I ask most sincerely to everybody listening to this, because I myself don't have a straight answer either. Morally speaking, some could argue it'd be best to save your own country because you're saving more people, but some would say it's morally correct to save yourself and those you love because that's who you're meant to protect. So Mo, do you think you have a straight answer with that question?
The thing is, as much as I'd encourage a lot of people to stay, I can understand why at the end of the day. I mean, like you said, load shedding is not an issue in Europe. Failing infrastructure, I mean, it is safer and the pay is better. The thing is, if the most capable people of fixing South Africa are leaving, then who's left to fix it,
That is a good question. Because if they all leave, then South Africa just ends up becoming like other African nations that, let's be honest, we're not trying to be like, and I'd argue ourselves better than. Of course, there is some bias over there, because some bias in that statement, because I am South African, but there's also some truth in it. And please, if you're offended, take it with a grain of salt, okay? But I don't have an answer, brother. I can't even lie to you. But it's just one of those things where, as I said, it's a moral dilemma, bro. It's a moral dilemma.
So circling back to the West, so do you believe at its core this resistance to immigration is more so about culture and not just economics?
I think it's about both. I won't lie. I think it's about both, because there's fair points being made on either side. Yo, I can't go out because it's unsafe. Loads of illegal immigrants entering England quite easily. And you could be like, oh no, but the prices of everything has gone up. So is it more about culture? Is it more about economics? I think the correct answer is both. I think it's 50-50. And I know nothing's ever 50-50, but you know what? Let me pick a side. I think it's more economic than it is cultural. That's my answer.
Okay, but like you said before, us South Africans, when we get there, we kind of get greeted with a big handshake and a big hug. And it seems as though we pass the test of assimilation.
Yeah.
But the question is, if our culture is already first world, in its values and way of life, then why not channel that energy into making South Africa first world?
Because it's just easier taking care of yourself. That's why. Making South Africa first world takes time, takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of resource and capital. It's more effort, if we're going to be honest. Yes, it can be done with the right people put in charge, with the right people, to lead us forward. But is it an easy task? No, it isn't an easy task. And that's why I believe people don't do it. It seems as though the people leaving South Africa are helping build somebody else's empire. They're just a statistic in somebody else's success story, whereas they could be a good statistic, help in their own countries, success, be a part of their own country's success story. So, yeah, I mean, that's where we are. I don't even know how long I've been speaking, but this is a topic that most certainly, it has me thinking, because I don't have the answers. I won't lie. I mean, I just keep asking myself, what would I do in the shoes of a Brit? Because you guys have to understand and remember, when 100,000 people, that's That's more than the entire capacity of F&B arena. People gathered with one goal to just stop immigration, uncontrolled immigration. Figures like Elon Musk, as big as Elon Musk, he's got the highest following on X. Yes, granted, he does own it, but that's somebody who's got a voice. And if somebody like that is against it, and 100,000 people showing up at one location, having it look like millions, I think that's something to speak about. I think that's quite concerning. Is it right? Is it wrong? Are they racist? Are they xenophobic? What do you guys think? Mo, it's been an excellent episode, as it always is. An interesting one, to say the least. Back to old tradition. Give me a question. A moral dilemma. Probably going to be political, but I'm ready.
Would you rather double your salary abroad while knowing South Africa loses your skills, or earn half as much at home but contribute to building the future South Africa?
Okay, but when contributing to help South Africa, does the story end with me like succeeding?
I mean, to some extent, because you're helping build your country, but
No, I know, but I'm saying, am I successful in trying to build it, or is it up to chance? Like, I don't know if it's going to succeed or not.
I mean, in whatever specific sector you do, then yeah, it's a success. But you earn half as much.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I'd prefer to earn half as much, and I'm being real. I'll earn half as much if it means, I'm successful in building my country up, And I'm being real when I say that, because money isn't necessarily everything. I believe that if I'm successful in building up my own country, there's a high chance of me becoming immortalized, and that might be seen as selfish or as greedy, but it's just the way that it is. I'd rather stick, like, I'll stick to my country. I'll help my country grow, and I'll make sure there is success in my nation, and earn less money whilst doing so. Fair answer.
You sound very patriotic, bro. The next box game, I better see you there at the pub.
And I'll be there. And I don't drink, but I'll go to the pub for the boys.
Green
I'll
and
buy the
gold,
drinks.
belting out that anthem, eh?
Behind those. No, I'll do it. 110%. Why not?
Okay, one more.
Yeah.
Would you rather raise your kids in the safety and opportunities of the West, but risk them losing their South African identity, or raise them in South Africa with a strong sense of roots, but fewer opportunities and way more risks?
Oh, man. That one's a difficult one, bro. Say that one again, because now I actually have to think.
Okay, so would you raise your kids in the safety and opportunities of the West, but risk them losing their South African identity, or raise them in South Africa with a strong sense of roots, but fewer opportunities and more risks?
Okay, so key word is risk. Risk doesn't mean guarantee. If I risk their South African identity, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will lose their South African identity. So I'll take the gamble and have them have a better future. I know it contradicts my last answer, but listen, the key word was risk. It's not a guarantee. Mo?
Yeah, I just think even though it is a contradiction, the contradiction itself just shows how intricate this topic is, you know?
Exactly.
So yeah, I think we do understand why people are leaving.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we still have to question whether or not the life that they're living there is far better than the life that they could build for themselves here, but also for the people of the country that they so-called claim to love.
That is true. Gents, we'll leave you with the questions, because I won't lie, this one, as I said, I don't have all the answers. This here was an excellent episode. We'll see you next week, as we're seeing you this week. Hope you'd enjoy the show. Hope you enjoyed the show. And there's nothing left to say. It was an excellent one. Peace and love, boys. Take care.